always had a call for ministry. I always enjoyed the church, but I embraced a call without knowing, understanding the full ramifications.
The first two churches that I served coming out of seminary were very conflicted. And after 5 years in ministry, my first wife said, I can't stand this anymore. It had just gotten that bad. And so for 9 years, I stepped out of pastoral ministry and tried to recover my career as a commercial artist.
Because I came out of the corporate world, I was pretty much in tune with being a workaholic. The ministry really makes it easy to continue that because there's never enough hours in the day to do everything that you would like to do. And then you see people, you know, we call them holy interruptions. People call and you make visits. In the course of sermon preparation, you may be interrupted several times. I would find myself at home at night with the laptop in my lap and not really participating fully in the family.
It's a vocation that just takes up so much time and energy that you are not self-nurturing because there are just so many demands placed upon you.
And the result of this perspective of living faithfully through giving to others means that actually no one's attending to the health of the pastor.
Weight gain became a problem for me, I guess, when I took on a new church. It was a high-stress ministry. My children were in their teenage years, which was high stress as well. Unfortunately, to help manage my stress, I would eat, use food as a comfort to help relieve stress. I gained weight and I gained weight until I ended up at 450 pounds. I had to be hospitalized. I was on oxygen 24 hours a day. It was a time of soul searching. However, I went back to the church. I continued to pastor even with oxygen.
I was surprised early on as a bishop about the number of divorces, health cost factors, particularly the high cost of drugs that were directly related to stress. When the healthcare costs are exorbitant, every year we face the issue of anywhere from 10 to 14 congregations saying we can no longer support a full-time pastor.
And we have this big expectation of our clergy that they'll be perfect.
There's this pressure to perform, to be effective, and sometimes you just don't live up. You're unable to live up to the expectation.
You see, vision connects us to God, and it connects us to one another in a deeper way.
Last summer, mother-in-law was diagnosed with an illness, and then my dad was sick, and then he passed away, and my father-in-law was doing some chemo. Then the cancer came back, and there was nothing that they could do. He died on March 25th. I got a call from my husband just a couple hours before worship started. I was here at the church doing the final prep work on my sermon. We got through Easter here at the church okay, but I just, you know, whatever I had to do to keep things going at the church was really all I could manage. As a pastor, you don't want to fall apart. You know, you want to model something, so even if you feel like on the inside you're falling apart, on the outside, you're still the spiritual leader of this congregation.
After hearing from pastors in their own words in focus groups, and then from 95% of them in a really long survey, we felt well equipped to build a health program just for them.
As I learned more about Spirited Life, I realized, wow, this is great. They're looking at more than just our physical health. They're looking at our spiritual health, our emotional health.
One of the things that we have woven into Spirited Life is giving pastors a vocational reason to slow down and take care of themselves. God has given us bodies incarnate. Our bodies truly are a gift, and so the response that's needed is to take good care of ourselves.
In April, I had another health screening, and the numbers were so bad from 6 months earlier that it was kind of like a wake-up call that I was going to need to snap out of it. I knew the toll that grief would take on my emotions, but I didn't realize the toll it would take on my body.
We decided on a 2-year health intervention because we wanted to help pastors try new behaviors, change habits, slip up, be supported again. The great irony of being a pastor is that you're surrounded by people all the time, and yet many pastors feel socially isolated. So we've created health partners for pastors. We call them wellness advocates.
Wellness advocates are trained in motivational interviewing, so it might be just talking about what are the kinds of things that you've been thinking you'd like to work on. What's worked in the past for you? There's lots of humor involved in these relationships oftentimes. There's some sadness, there's some pain that people will reveal that they haven't told anyone else before.
Isolation, unfortunately, is a part of it. One of the areas that's been so meaningful is to have the Spirited Life a coach that calls you periodically to share, in a confidential manner, just to go alongside of you and hear your story. I have found it's just good to have someone to talk to. That is certainly a big plus. Big plus about the Spirited Life program.
I was an active layperson. My mom and dad had just died. My wife had left and taken our 2 youngest kids. And my pastor said, "You need to go back into ministry. Don't you still feel called?" I said, "Well, I've never doubted my call." I began to think about wanting to intentionally integrate who I am as an artist with who I am as a pastor. Without Spirited Life, I don't think I would have taken the risk of learning how to do oil painting on my own. I was so afraid of portraiture, and then the last few years I just got really interested in faces. Being a pastor, you have a lot of face time with people, and I thought, wouldn't it be neat to be able to capture the emotion and then integrate it with ministry. I've been in a search for my birth mother. In February of this year, I was given my adoption file. My birth mother worked as a portrait artist, which floored me. I don't know how to describe it. It almost felt like when you're completing a puzzle and there's still significant parts and you can't figure out how to fit them together. And it was like, wow, now I get it. I mean, God is at work. It's really been about a lot more than painting faces. It's helped me to connect with God. It's helped me to connect with who I am. I don't know where it's going to lead, but interestingly enough, the church that I've been appointed to is filled with artwork, and they have an art camp every summer. And so I feel like God's been preparing me.
And when I initially heard about Spirited Life, I said, oh, here we go. Because when you need to lose weight, you're trying so many things. At the beginning of this year, I had an awakening. It was like the presence of the Lord came into the room. God spoke to my heart, and he says, are you ready? And I says, yes, I am. I agreed to have my progress put in a bulletin each week. For every pound that I would lose, the congregation would respond by giving some dollar amount to their favorite mission. I'm shrinking before congregation. I've lost 101 pounds thus far, and it has created a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. Spirited Life has encouraged that. My goal is to weigh 200 pounds or less. At this momentum, I could easily get there by December. So maybe I have an Advent theme or a Christmas theme, Eldrick Born Again, December the 25th.
One of the things that Spirited Life does is opens up the space for us to manage our stress better I think of it as deciding which hill I'm going to die on and letting a lot of other things go. I give myself permission to have a couple of hours in the morning for exercise. In many ways, it's a way to connect with creation and also a way to connect with God, because I feel like doing what I need to keep my body and my mind healthy as well as my spirit.
I'm more than grateful for what Duke Divinity School is doing in this work, and also what the Duke Endowment is making possible, because without that, we could not adequately address this huge issue that's before the church.
Spirited Life has really enabled me to experience renewal in my own life, losing weight, being more flexible, expressing my artistic gifts, and feeling more emotionally whole.
You get in that rhythm of life where you're just going 100 miles an hour, and you realize that God created the world with a different sort of rhythm.
I've decided I'm never going back. And I'm excited because God gave me that.